Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. After finishing my last video on the tunnel in the back of the Great Sphinx, I did manage to come across more information about it, written by Mark Lehner in his 1991 in-depth dissertation about the Sphinx. This video is split into two parts. Part 1 looks at the new information regarding the shaft, whilst in Part 2 I'll be presenting some rare old photographs and information about another Sphinx cavity, chamber or tunnel, the famous doorway on its northern side. As stated in my previous video, Emil Baresi ensured the historic shaft on the back of the Sphinx was kept during his restoration work back in the 1920s. He even added a metal trapdoor for good measure to keep out the elements and to ensure access. After looking through historic writings from people such as Johann Michael van Slaben in 1679, Ellis Verriard in 1701, and August Mariette in 1855, this shaft located in the centre of the natural fissure on the back of the monument apparently led to a possible burial chamber. Pliny the Elder said the Sphinx was the final resting place of Amasis, who I interpret as King Amasis II of the Sate period, due to the close proximity to the tombs of his most beloved queen and son Prince Ahmose. So, that is the convoluted backstory, but as stated in my last video, the opening on the back of the Sphinx gets very little attention, although Zahi Hawass did show it, as well as a view of the interior in the 2010 documentary Riddles of the Sphinx. After I published my last video, I kept searching for information and came across the dissertation written by the famous Egyptologist Mark Lehner, who does discuss the shaft. He says, and I quote, "Baresi filled a large fissure, cutting the top of the Sphinx's back with cement. The largest of these fissures opened to a width of 2 meters, just at the narrowest part of the Sphinx." He continues, "It was lined on either side with limestone blocks and cement, and left as an open shaft covered with an iron trapdoor." So, Lehner confirms it was indeed Baresi who installed the metal hatch. Further on in his dissertation, he does go into more detail, and regarding the fissure in the back of the monument, he says, "It opens into a shaft through the Sphinx body at the waist. This was first excavated by Mariette in 1853. He recognised this opening as a natural fissure, although others had thought it was a funerary shaft. The fissure runs through the entire core body of the Sphinx, member 2 and down into member 1 through the floor of the sanctuary." He continues, "At the top of the back, the fissure opens more than 2 meters wide. This space was roofed with iron bars, limestone pieces and grey cement by Baresi in 1926. The width of this roof varies from 2.3 meters to 4 meters. Baresi built an iron trapdoor into the roof, blocked up the interior sides of the fissure and sealed it off from the outside." Lehner goes on, "It is possible to descend by rope vertically down the shaft, from the trapdoor at the top of the back, through the body of the Sphinx. The interior sides of the shaft show the unweathered bedrock surface and sporadic patches of Baresi's stone cement blocking." He says that the bedrock might have been squared artificially, but he says, and I quote, "However, no chamber as such is cut at the bottom, which is about 11.5 meters from the top of the back, or about 1 meter short of the outside floor level of the Sphinx sanctuary." Lehner says that the bottom is irregular bedrock, with a much smaller crack continuing deeper, although the situation is obscured by grey cement that was spilled by Baresi during the restoration work. So, this is the last official description of the shaft in the back of the Sphinx, and although he says there is no chamber at the bottom, he does say that spilled cement obscured it. This of course is quite puzzling, because a number of historical writers say something very different, and therefore I'm assuming that cement does obscure the entrance to the so-called burial chamber. I also don't think that Lehner quotes Mariette all too fairly. In the 1882 publication that Lehner cites as his source, this is exactly what Mariette says. "I had the hole cleaned to the bottom, and indeed when we look from above, it seems that it ends in a room, but despite its appearance of being funerary, it is only an enlarged fissure that widens, and ends by a fairly spacious void arranged precisely in the full thighs." On this channel, as well as sharing my own ideas, I do like to present the hard evidence. The shaft does lead to a large void, and as Mariette also said in another previous book, wood was discovered which when burned gave off a smell like resin, and therefore it was likely to be from a coffin. The Sphinx being natural limestone bedrock at its core, as well as the Giza limestone as a whole, we know is full of voids. And I agree that this shaft does lead to a natural void, but my question is, was this reused as a burial chamber? In his second publication, Marriott did say that the rough chamber was a natural fissure, but he specifically said that it was enlarged by the hands of man. It's also interesting that in the 1882 publication, Marriott says that the void was arranged precisely in the full thighs, almost like it had been worked in this manner. Despite a cement spill, I'm convinced that the shaft in the back of the Sphinx does lead to a chamber. Natural, yes, but worked by man and once included a body, very likely. It was important enough for Baresi to construct a stable shaft and also include a trapdoor for future study as well. For now, that is all I can find on this shaft and chamber, and if you haven't already, I'd urge you to watch my previous video for a more detailed look. In this video, I also want to go back to another cavity or tunnel in the Sphinx, because I've discovered a series of eye-catching historic photographs. It is the one mentioned by Robert Temple in the Sphinx Mystery, and also covered by Charles Cos in a video a few months ago. In the Sphinx Mystery, Robert and Olivia Temple show this picture, which they say is an entrance on the north side of the monument at its base. The modern masonry was placed there by Baresi in 1926, and all sources say it has not been opened since, although this may in fact not be true. There is no record in existence of how far this opening extended, whether it went up or down, and as the temples say in their book, or anything at all other than the fact that two men could stand inside. The book claims there is a surviving photo showing a workman inside it, taken in 1926, just before it was closed up. In Passage Under the Sphinx by Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner, they too made the same claim and say that in an old photograph, a man is standing below floor level in what may be a niche cut into the bedrock, whilst another man stands on a small mound of sand just outside the gap. They say it is sealed off now by large stones, some of which are replaced Phase 1 slabs, sealed with grey cement which was used by Baresi. They go on to say, and I quote, "It is possible that the passage in the north side of the Sphinx, like that at the rump, is ancient." The fact that Phase 1 blocks covered it says that the passage was there before the 18th dynasty. At the time of writing their book, Robert and Olivia Temple were refused access to the photographs, but I have managed to locate them. The photos show the north flank of the Sphinx when Baresi cleared the debris down to the floor level in 1925, and we can see a huge amount of Phase 1 restoration rubble thought to date back to the 18th dynasty. As is shown on each of the photographs, there is a large gap in the Phase 1 casing. We can see a man standing below the floor level inside and another on the outside. In his 1998 guide to the Sphinx restoration, Zahi Hawass says, "A tunnel in the north side of the Sphinx has not been opened since 1926 when Emil Baresi opened it. We have photographs showing two workmen inside it." Well, these are the photographs in question, but I can't find any further information and Baresi did not leave a written record. Whether it's a niche or a passageway, I don't know, but it clearly isn't horizontal but descends down below the base of the Sphinx enclosure. To me, the bedrock looks like it's been purposefully cut and not weathered at this opening, meaning that it is not a natural cavity, which makes the northern door all the more intriguing. In a promotional video for a tour company called Archaeological Paths, linked below in the description, Zahi Hawass says in a very short clip that the cavity or tunnel in the northern wall was last opened in the 1920s, but he also says that with permission, he did reopen it. The promotional video cuts at that point, and I can't seem to find any further information on the operations carried out by Hawass. If anybody does know more, please do get in touch. There are a number of other shafts and tunnels in and around the Sphinx, and I'll present the information when I come across it in my research. There are many old photographs of the Sphinx available on the internet, some from before the restoration work by Emil Baresi, but of course most of them are post-1920s. In my opinion, it is with the oldest photographs of the Sphinx where we learn the most, and when you compare the Sphinx today to how it looked pre-1920s, there really is nothing new we can learn from studying it in its current form. The Sphinx is covered with huge amounts of cement and a large number of restoration blocks. To me, the old weathered core of the monument certainly looks far older than Old Kingdom Egypt, but my main interest is finding out when it was first turned into a Sphinx. The upper parts of the monument are higher than the enclosure wall and therefore have surely been above ground for a very long time, as seen by the huge amounts of erosion. Being a natural limestone hill above the ground level meant that it must have drawn attention, and at some point in history, the people of the Giza Plateau dug down. They removed the limestone blocks and used them to create the Sphinx and Valley temples to the east and shape the monument into a lion. There is what is believed to be Old Kingdom masonry on the Sphinx, so we may assume that this all happened in the Old Kingdom, or if we believe the evidence presented by geologist Robert Schoch, it may have happened a long time before. The Sphinx still has a huge amount of secrets to reveal, and going forward I'll be doing everything I can to uncover them. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.